Mein nächster Referent kommt aus unserem eigenen Hause. Er ist ein Kollege von uns. Und warum ist es so? Er wird über Adobe selber reden, als Kunde, nicht über unsere Produkte, nicht über Technologien, sondern wie wir unsere eigenen Kunden ansprechen, wie wir versuchen, genau diese Optimierung, was ich eingangs erläutert habe, selber umsetzen. Er ist eigentlich ein Politikwissenschaftler, sozusagen ein Quereinsteiger in das Marketing, hat jahrelang das Brand-Marketing und Campaign-Marketing weltweit für Adobe betreut, ist jetzt seit kurzem nach Europa gekommen und ist jetzt unser Vice President EMEA-Marketing, was uns sehr freut. Er ist ein Amerikaner, der uns Europäer versteht. Das ist eine ganz, ganz wichtige Eigenschaft, die gibt es nicht immer und wir sind sehr dankbar darüber. Und er hat in der Vergangenheit ganz viel Erfahrung gesammelt in der Markenstrategie. Vor Adobe hat er viele Jahre bei Intel gearbeitet. Ich freue mich jetzt ganz besonders, meinen Kollegen John Travis auf die Bühne zu bitten. John Travis.
Okay. I hope he said nice things about me, but I understood about 50% of that. So, hi everybody, my name is John Travis, and I'm here to talk to you and share with you Adobe's own digital transformation. So I've been with Adobe almost 9 years, very long time, and I spent the first 8 years in San Francisco, basically managing Adobe's brand, all of our campaign marketing, all of our creative execution, and our media. And about 5 or 6 months ago, I got the very lucky chance to relocate to London to run European marketing. And we've been talking a lot today about the design advantage, digital transformation, and the change. And we at Adobe, in our own marketing, have gone through a considerable change. So about 6-ish years ago, we decided that we were going to make a very hard right-hand turn to digital. And today, our total global marketing budget, we spend 74% of our total budget in digital. And just as a comparison, the average large-ish size company probably spends somewhere between 10% to 25% in digital, so we're somewhat of an outlier. And what's interesting about, hopefully for you, about the information I'm going to share is a lot of the change that we've gone through. We talk a lot about the technology and the products, and obviously technology is key to this transformation. But as we've been on this journey, and the journey is still going on, this transformation is not done, it's the other things that we didn't necessarily anticipate, the things we had to change to really capitalize on the technology. Things like the people we hire, the culture of the company, the process we have. And so I thought I would share with you some of the mistakes we made, some of the things we did as we've been on this journey, because I think all of us in the room, I believe, are feeling this enormous sense of change and transformation. Now, before I talk about Adobe, if you are feeling the sense of change, you are not alone. So we have been spending the last few years talking to everybody. We've been talking to marketers, creative professionals, consumers, all around the world. Informal studies, in events such as this one, and really the sense of change is so palpable everywhere. There's a very consistent sense among this set of people that there's never been as much change as there is right now. And it's kind of a mix. From an emotional standpoint, there's a mix of sort of angst and fear with the change, but there's also a lot of opportunity and empowerment. And so I just thought I would share a few stats. These statistics actually are all German. We've done this research, as I said, in the US, in Germany, in Japan, in the UK, Australia, all over the world. Very, very consistent findings. It's so interesting. Among marketers that we surveyed in Germany, 77%, over 3/4, feel like marketing has changed more in the last 2 years than the last 50. And the majority of marketers feel that they must have a digital strategy today to be successful, but less than half of them in Germany feel proficient in digital marketing. So a bit of a gap. On the plus side, however, marketers feel very empowered. They feel like they've never had a larger seat at the table, that they are now recognized within their companies as a strategic imperative. And that feeling is also stretching to the creative side. So among creative professionals, we talked about design advantage and the notion of design principles more and more being valued at companies. Creatives are feeling that as well. Over 2/3 of creatives feel like they agree they are more important now to business than ever before. And the way that they're working is also changing fundamentally. Today in Germany, the average creative professional works in 5 different locations in 1 week. Again, back to the technology, now that we have the capability with mobile tools to kind of work wherever we want, we're seeing the creative profession really transform in a mobile world. And even among consumers, as you probably know in your businesses, the expectation is much, much higher now in terms of the companies that they want to engage with, in terms of, does this company know who I am? Do they respect me? Do I respect the company's values? Even the experience that we deliver, the content we provide. In our survey, we found overwhelming majority of consumers today, if that content isn't compelling, if that layout is bad or not relevant, they switch it off. They go to another device, they engage with different content. So the bar of the experience, we were talking about user experience, expectation is much, much higher. So lots of change taking place. So let's talk about Adobe. And I could go on, don't worry, I won't. I could go on and on about all the things we've changed. And what's interesting about my presentation today is the notion that so much has changed, but also we found that a lot hasn't changed. And I'll get there in a second in terms of the core fundamentals of marketing, of design, are just as important today as they ever were, and they're not changing. But let me start with the big changes first. And I'm going to start with kind of the big thing that we went through, and that is we had to move away from a sort of a campaign thinking of the past. And campaign thinking, I mean that we would spend 5 or 6 months working on a campaign, make sure it's perfect, everything's perfect. Then you launch the campaign, you run it, you wait 3, 4 months, and then maybe you do some kind of tracking survey to see how you did. And that's basically how we did marketing for many, many years. And in the world of digital, we had to move to a 24/7, what we call always-on marketing, a daily approach to marketing in terms of monitoring, optimization, putting out content, really this always-on model. And within that framework, we had to change basically everything. And I'll share a few things that we did that really worked for us and maybe will be helpful to you. So one of the biggest problems we had over the last couple of years was data and managing our data. I'm sure most of you in the room are going through something similar in your companies. And one of the biggest problems we had with the data is everybody had different data. So we'd go into a meeting, and everybody had a slightly different interpretation of what the data said, or, well, my numbers say this, well, my numbers say that. So what we did is we developed this concept of a single source of truth. And that is that there is one group at Adobe, we call it the Marketing Insights and Operations Group. They are responsible for all marketing data, all of it. They collect the data, they publish the dashboards, they deliver the insights, they bring it to us. And that, you can imagine, was somewhat difficult to do because people like data. Data is, knowledge is power, but we had to basically fundamentally change the way that we manage data. So now we spend much more time in meetings talking about what we're going to do and much less time arguing over the numbers. Seems like relatively small, but had a huge impact. Testing and optimization is another area that was very, very key for us. We used to, if we were lucky, maybe we did 5 tests a month on our website, maybe. Today we do 20 to 25 a week, and that's at a global scale, which is enormous change. But one of the biggest changes that we had to make was cultural, because we wanted everything to be perfect before we put it out there. Like, I want every image, every word to be perfect, and I still want it to be perfect. But in the world of testing optimization, we throw out ideas, we throw out different content, we see what's going to work, we make changes on the fly. That was cultural. That was something we had to change our mindset. It's less about the mechanics of the testing and more about the culture and how we had to change the culture of our marketing. And content. And this is probably the thing we are going through right now, and we are struggling just like everybody else. We talked about content velocity, the enormous amount of content that we have to produce today compared to even 2 or 3 years ago. We're right in the middle of figuring that out now. I don't have it completely figured out, but I will tell you what we are doing, and we're making progress. First thing we did, so basic, we did a content audit. We had never done that before, ever. And we're in phase 1 of an audit to see how much content are we producing and who is producing it. You'd be amazed how many people in your company are producing content when you do this audit. And it's not to say that that's wrong. It's not to say that content production needs to be centralized. I personally don't think that's necessarily the right answer for Adobe. But for us, we had to get our arms around what is the content picture today? What is happening today? We're becoming much more explicit about our content development in terms of roadmaps and planning, really thinking through the complete customer journey, the experience we want to deliver, and mapping that to content needs up front. Again, not perfect. We're just starting, but again, it's helping us because ultimately, we need to have a much more rapid development and delivery of content. So really, really important. One other thing I'll say is about people. We've had to really think about the people we hire and the skills we need. So obvious in the age of digital, we brought in a lot more analysts, search professionals, media professionals, data experts. We've moved quite a bit of our marketing work in-house. And at Adobe, we're a bit special. We are Adobe. We are the creative company. We've always had an element of creative and creative production in-house. That has been something traditional at the company for the past 30 years. We've had to hire more. I need more creatives. I need more copywriters. I need that because I can't call an agency to have them change an email every time I need to make a change. I have to do that in-house. But that's not to say that my agency isn't important. My agency is very important, but the relationship with my agency has changed. It used to be that I would sit in rooms and think long-term. I'm the long-term strategic thinker, and my agency would handle the day-to-day of the marketing. And now it's somewhat flipped, where we're doing a lot of that in-house, the creative production, media optimization, advertising, search, in-house. But I look to my agency to help me with what are the big ideas? Where am I going? What's the plan for the future? That's what my agency is really fundamentally helping with. And I believe for us, it's much more rewarding for both sides. It's much more of a strategic partnership and much less transactional. So really interesting change that took place with our agency. Sorry, this thing's weird. And then last but not least, we use all of Adobe products. You're going to hear about that today. I'm not going to share very much on that. But what I will say is we use all 3 clouds. We use everything. And what I will say is it's really fun to be the target audience for your own products. That's kind of fun. Because back to marketing having more of a seat at the table, marketing now is much more involved in product development. We actually sit at the table with our product management folks and we share with them what we like, what we don't like, what we need, what we don't need. We're very much involved, and marketers have such a voice today, I think, within their companies because we understand the customer more than anyone else, and we're very involved. So it's been quite rewarding from a product standpoint. Okay, I don't know why there's a build. So within that context, one thing I think that helped us also is despite all the change, what we know as marketers, what we know as creative people, is so valuable today. Because when I talk to people around the world, sometimes I get the sense people feel like everything I did for the past 20 years I have to throw out the window because everything's changed. And what we found is that is not true at all. And in fact, those skills, those things that we as a team instinctively understand are more important than ever. Maybe it's spun a little differently, but at the core, those skills are still very, very valuable today. So let me share with you a few things where I feel like things pretty much have stayed the same. And I'll start with brand. We were talking about brand earlier, brand fundamentals. Knowing your value proposition, knowing what differentiates you from other companies, understanding your values, understanding what you stand for. This is more important today than ever before. And that's always been a tenet of brand strategy. But I would say in the digital world, in the world of always-on marketing, you are now in a 24/7 conversation with your customers. So the notion of being genuine and being transparent is critical because people want to work with people, they want to engage with brands that they feel like they know, that know them, that they can trust. So if you as a company don't understand your own values and who you are, how can you possibly expect to have this type of rewarding relationship with your customer? Now what has changed from a brand standpoint, at least from my perspective, and I go way back, and branding was the world of control. It was my trademark. These are my messages, and I'm going to protected and I'm going to sue you if you come after my brand. It was a very much a world of protection. That, at least at Adobe, has completely changed. Because what we think about now from our brand is, how do we keep our brand modern? How do we keep our brand relevant? And what we discovered is, again, in a world of 24/7, always-on relationship, we have to really bring our community, our people, into the branding, into the fabric of our branding. We, in essence, are somewhat leading a conversation, but we're not in that much control anymore, and that's okay. That's not to say that trademarks aren't important. They are. But what I'm saying is you need to embrace, or we needed to embrace, that idea that we are part of this conversation about our brand. We're guiding it, hopefully, but we're no longer in charge. And so we decided to embrace that. And I wanted to share with you a quick video to demonstrate. We basically brought our customers into the very fabric of the design of our brand. So let me show a quick video.
Adobe basically came with this open brief of do anything you want with the shape of our logo.
They just said take our logo and put your own interpretation on it. And if anything, their guidance and boundaries were to just be yourself.
Any logo is iconic and set in stone and not to be trifled with. And to have Adobe initiate this project where they let all sorts of designers and artists take apart their logo, it was nerve-wracking.
I have no idea how I'm going to create anything even remotely in the shape of the Adobe logo. I am not satisfied. It looks like shit.
What I love about this project is like everyone tried to do something very, very experimental. In my case, I was working with a material that I never worked before, so for me it was a big leap into the unknown.
Jessica, what's the most challenging part of being blindfolded here?
Not be able to see.
I really appreciated Adobe's willingness to give up their brand to be reinterpreted. It just shows that they believe in their artists. You know, they trust and believe in their community to be able to do that. It's a very beautiful thing.
Okay, so that is called, we call that our Adobe logo remix, and that's way more than a stunt. That's not a stunt, look at our new logo, I'll put it on my website for a day. That's not what it is. It actually is bringing these artists into the fabric of our brand identity. If you come to an Adobe office, the events you're seeing today, the advertising, you're going to see this work incorporated across the board. And it's alive and it's vibrant. The splash screen you may see on the product you're opening, again, created by our community, not by us. And we're keeping that fresh because that's keeping the brand vital and alive because these people, our customers, are part of it. So it's a very different way for those of us who've been around a while, from a brand perspective, a very different way for us to think about it. And more, we're bringing in our community, we're bringing in our customers into the fabric of the company. Okay. Market research. I have to just share a little bit on the data side. So, market research, again, a core fundamental always has been in marketing. Maybe it was the world of focus groups, you need a lot of M&Ms and popcorn, or maybe you would do a multi-month tracking study. But market research has always been, in my opinion, fundamental to marketing. I think what's interesting, though, again, back to how we are changing, is that the way that we think about market research is much more data-driven. Back to this 24/7, always-on way that we think about our marketing and about our content. So, at Adobe, I just thought I would share with you how we are using market research, or data analytics as we say today, to really understand and real-time optimize and improve the experiences that we're putting out there in the world. So the first is, before we ever launch a new idea, we do quite a bit of work simulating and estimating what our marketing spend and mix should be. And we use econometric modeling. We have an in-house econometric model, and we have it now in multiple countries. We have it in the US, we have it in the UK, we have it in Japan, we just launched it in Germany. And basically it allows us, based on a certain revenue goal, we may have a revenue goal, we may have a unit goal. We do quite a bit of sales on Adobe.com. And based on that, we're able to then look at various spend levels and various thresholds and actually predict, based on a mix, how much money we will need and the result of that marketing investment. And what's been really interesting about this, it's so empowering, because I've never had something like that before. I've never been able to go to my CEO and confidently say, this is what I'm going to need. And over time, the model gets much better, because again, the more data I put into the model, the more accurate, the more frighteningly accurate it becomes over time. And so this has been something that we have been using and has been very, very useful for us. But the thing I really want to point out is, back to that kind of letting go of that old school kind of campaign orientation. During the run of a campaign, we do real-time monitoring every week. And so we moved away. Right now, what we do is every week, I'll use the creative business as an example. Every week on Monday, we have a cross-functional team of people, not just the marketers, product marketing, IT, marketing, the e-commerce group, sales, get in a room together. This team evaluates the data that has come from our MIO group. They look at the data, they look at how we're doing, they decide what needs to change, what doesn't need to change. Because again, what we're seeing is beyond marketing. You need the full set of people responsible for your goal in the room together. Again, another huge change for us. They basically publish a report on Tuesday, the management team sees it. Sometimes no changes are needed, sometimes changes are needed. We make the changes, off we go. Next Monday, we do it again. So different, so different, because basically organizational structures, yes, they're important, but we had to break the silos. We cannot be worried about who's in what organization. Cross-functional teams was another thing we really had to build into the fabric of the culture. Very different. And then ultimately, at the end of a campaign run, we analyze those results. We do a complete report for our CEO and for his management team, and then we ask for more money, because hopefully we're successful. So that's been our process from a market research standpoint. Again, research fundamental. Okay, so media, just quickly on media, obviously there is a media explosion. Media has always been fundamental to marketing. I think the way that we think about media and the way we define media has changed. Media in my day, way back, was radio, TV, print, maybe a little online. That was it. Today, I think about media much more expansively. I think about media relative to a complete customer experience. Here's just a few examples. Obviously, Adobe.com, the center of all our marketing. It's the most important marketing vehicle we have. But across the board, we are thinking about a complete journey, and we are not closing our mind, again, to what is media. And what's interesting is that as we become more and more digital, the relationship and the distinction between product experience and marketing experience kind of going away. It's very, very blended. And again, this requires, back to the cross-functional team, much more engagement from my team with product marketing, product management, because again, customers don't distinguish between an app that they're using and the web experience. It's all one experience to them, or hopefully it is. And so it's interesting with mobile apps, I don't need to put an ad in my mobile app. The experience that someone has when they download a Photoshop mix, as an example, that's a one-on-one experience with Adobe. That is media. That is marketing, ultimately. So we have to think about media much more expansively today. Again, different way for us to think, and but exciting for us. Okay, I'm down to two more. So the customer is king. This has been around for forever. And as I had set up in my opening, this is still true. The customer is king. But what we've moved away from is the thought of a customer as this sort of transactional one-to-many relationship. Where now, as I showed in the branding setup, it's really about a community of customers, because this community of customers that we have, they have such enormous influence over our customers, future customers. We have to think much more expansively and much more broadly about our customer set and think of them more as a community, that we are participating in the community, that we are hopefully nurturing that community. But it's really fundamental to how we think about our customers and how we think about marketing. And I want to share another example that I think, I'll be honest, I think this is one of the best examples, because it's a struggle. It's not like we decided to do this 5 years ago and boom, it was so easy. We've been on a journey. But I want to share an example where I feel like we really did a fine job at sort of linking that marketing and product experience together. This is video I'm going to show you in 1 second. It's from the launch of Creative Cloud from June. And just in case some of you aren't aware, one of the biggest sort of messages around that launch, we actually, as part of that new release, the 2015 release, we launched a host of mobile tools. And these mobile tools allow creatives, allow people on the go to create, to capture inspiration, and those tools are linked back to our desktop products, such as InDesign or Photoshop, etc. And so that notion of your ability to sort of create wherever you want in this sort of seamless way that people are creating was a thought that we wanted to really get across as part of the campaign. And we said, how are we going to do that? How are we really going to get that across? And so we turned to our community, and I want to show you one artist, and then I'll explain to you the details of the campaign.
Wie ich das erste Mal in die Brauerei gekommen bin, war ich ziemlich aufgeregt. Es ist voller Licht, Texturen, Ideen und Inspiration. Ich mag den Adrenalinkick. Ich werde nur nervös, wenn die Polizei oder so kommt. Dann bin ich nervös. Die neuen Creative Cloud Tools geben Künstlern wie mir die Möglichkeit, die Welt durch unsere Augen zu zeigen. Alles, was ich sammle, ist in meiner Bibliothek. Es ist voller Möglichkeiten. Es ist nicht sauber oder steril, es lebt.
So what was interesting about that is we basically asked artists all over the world that happened to be in Berlin, but all over the world to take these tools and go create something. Go out in the world, get inspired by wherever you are, and create something. And that's a nice marketing campaign. But then what we did is every asset that those artists made, every image, every pixel they made, we made available in Creative Cloud itself. So if you're a customer or you're trying the product for free, you're on a free trial, you could actually take the assets that those people made that you saw and make something yourself with them or get inspired by them. So we built the notion of that experience we were trying to create across marketing and product. And then we pushed that out, as you can imagine, through all marketing vehicles, particularly social media, a huge, huge factor for us. And it really became a swell of enthusiasm. People were posting things. It got the message across so much more than if I lectured you about the joy of Creative Cloud and the use of creative libraries. It was a way for our community to really rally around and get empowered by what we were offering as part of the new release. Again, it's kind of scary because you don't know what they're going to create, and you put that idea out there, and it kind of takes on a world of its own, and you have to be willing to kind of go with that. So again, thinking about our customers as a set of people, it's a community that engage together, and less of a one-to-one transaction. I sold you something, I'll see you in 2 years when I sell you something else. Really had to move away from that. Okay, what I want to close with, however, is, to me and to Adobe, the biggest thing that hasn't changed is that creativity is obviously fundamental and still matters. And that is that despite all the technology and the amazing move to digital, emotion, instinct, storytelling, these things are fundamental and will never go away. And as a marketer or as a creative professional, we believe it's that combination, it's the combination of the magic of art and instinct combined with this digital analytics, the power to measure, the power to prove the value of what you're creating, when you put those two things together, that's what makes our profession so rewarding and so exciting. Creativity will never be done by robots, never. It's going to take people like us in whatever form you are in. And so I want to leave you with that because at the core, that's what we believe, that's what we're about. So with that, I want to thank you for listening to me and enjoy the rest of your day.